Tammy. And Elizabeth. Whoa, big old light in my screen. Oh, what happened to my, oh, I see.
Baby's skin is absorbent. Her skin can actually soak up wetness. Her diaper doesn't. That's why I use Pampers.
Pampers traps and locks wetness away, keeping baby's skin drier and healthier.
That's me, but it could be.
They're in.
It is easy to scapegoat people, and that is what has always happened when there have been.
I got a problem. There we go. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hello.
Welcome to the town hall.
Thank you.
Got people showing up, so
Yeah, lots of turnout.
let's get rolling here in just a little bit. How are things out in your neck of the woods?
Lovely today. It's a beautiful summer day here.
It's a nice day here. It's supposed to snow tonight, though. We're supposed to get like 5 inches.
Ooh, wow, that's a lot. Yeah, we got a big thunderstorm roll through overnight, and we got an inch or so of rain. I can tell because the creek behind my house is really loud right now. But it's like 73 degrees and mostly sunny, so altogether a wonderful day.
Awesome. Well, I'm just getting my presentation up and running.
Yeah.
And just
You sound good. Everything looks good. So I think you're ready.
Yep.
Still got a few minutes.
Yeah, I've got a few minutes. I see Kirk is here. Hey, Kirk. Well, I'm kind of bouncing around.
Hey, guys.
I see Gary. Hi, Gary. So I stayed up all last night and painted the wall behind me. What do you think? I was pretty happy about it. So we'll get started when we hit 1, and we had a good discussion in the previous one. I assume we'll get some more people in, and we'll get rolling. No, it's kind of crazy to be stuck, and it's such a gorgeous day outside. But, you can still go out and do things. I need to get out and do some drone flying. There's the man. Hi, Elliot.
Hello.
Dr. Elliot Cotto.
El doctor.
Doctor. I'll get this rolling in just a few. I'm just waiting for people to show up. Already have quite a few people on. Double check that we're recording, and we are. Elliot, were you able to get the recording in the last one?
Yes, it's already posted.
Great. So for those of you that have joined, go to our website. We have a link to the first one, the one we had this morning. It was really good. We had, I think we had some confusion around the timing of this, and so we didn't have as many credit unions as signed up because this has been overwhelming. We've had over 100 credit unions sign up for this, and in an effort to try to get it so that everybody can talk, we tried to limit the sessions to 20, and we added an extra session yesterday, and I think that caused some confusion. So we'll get back around to those people. But we had a good group this morning, and we had some really good discussion around PTO, what credit unions are, what some of the credit unions are doing to maintain that 6-foot rule, how they're dealing with sick employees, how they're dealing with sick members, the NCUA guidelines, just all kinds of stuff. And so it did what I had hoped it would do, which is just people sharing information. And so that was great. Because we are limited in time, and because we want to get as many people to talk as we can, I'm actually going to get right started here in just a minute. And we'll have a little bit of a presentation. And I'd like everybody to check in just a few, so we'll go through all the instructions and kind of how this works. But thank you again for joining us. All right, I am sharing my screen. I want to make sure you can see it. Elliot, can you see? Oh, hang on a second. Are you seeing my screen, Elliot?
I am.
Great. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. I don't know that everybody's here, but I do know that this is valuable time for everyone, so we'll get rolling. This is a second CU Digital Town Hall, and we're so excited that you're here. We kind of dreamt this up this week when we were trying to figure out what to do. Big is in the same situation as everyone else. A lot of the projects that we work on are not the top projects right now for credit unions in distress. And we thought, what could we do to help our clients and get the word out? And if you've ever seen me speak, I always talk about how collaboration is this industry's superpower. And so we thought we'd put something together to bring everybody together. So we thank you for coming out, and we hope that this format will work for you. We're learning a lot as we go along. We would like to ask that you mute if you are, if you're not, we'll get around to you in just a little bit. But once we, hey Mark, if you can mute, that would be great. Once we're going to get to everybody pretty quickly, and so, and I'll go over the format. So thank you for joining us. Not sure he's here yet. Mike, are you here? Yeah, so I'm not sure Mike's here, but I decided to partner with Mike from CU Broadcast on this because I think these may need to be run quite a bit, and I was worried that there might be times I couldn't make it. And so I wanted to have a partner that I knew, could help facilitate communication. He does a great job of that. So Mike and I, worked together on this. It also brought some more reach to it. I'd also like to thank CUSN. Doug, I believe, is here. Doug Burke from Credit Union Service Network, who, when I hatched this idea, while talking to him earlier on the phone this week, he immediately said, I'm in, and he jumped in and has been just a wonderful supporter. So we're thankful for CUSN's support as well. So here's the format. We're trying to limit this to 20 credit unions. We may not have that in this one because, again, we're still getting everybody connected. But the reason we want to do that is so that all of you get a chance to speak. Depending on how many people we have here, and we're going to check in a minute so that we know, we will, adjust the time. But if we get all the people, it's basically 5 minutes per person. I'll do a quick introduction and talk about some things I'm seeing out there. We have the credit unions sorted in alphabetical order, but that may or may not work depending on who's here and who's not. We know sometimes people have important things that come up really quickly. We have put slides together for each of the credit unions that did RSVP, and that's to save you time about giving the demographics of your credit union. If you hear something, like for example, in the last meeting, a credit union said, it was Tom Shea from Aspire. He had some good feedback on what he was seeing in New York from the regulatory standpoint. If you see somebody and you want to talk to them, we'll show you how to do that. We highly recommend you contact them directly and exchange information. If you think that there's information that the broader audience should show, we're going to show you how to put that in the chat so everyone can see it. If there's something that comes up that's worthy of a longer discussion, which in this last one, we really thought that what Tom was bringing up in terms of regulatory issues was worthy of a longer discussion. That'll be switched over to CU Broadcast and done as a longer interview in Mike's style. These town halls will be recorded and they'll be published on our site. They'll be published on the CU Broadcast site and as a podcast. So with that in mind, just keep that in mind as you go along. If you're going to share information, you want to make sure that it's nothing confidential. We hope that won't inhibit anybody from being candid, because we feel like that's important. But we also feel like it's important for the people who can attend these meetings to be able to hear it and listen in on what's going on. So that's the format. So the first thing we wanted to point out is for those of you that are using this Zoom, and maybe you've not used it a million times, maybe you haven't, but I wanted to show you how to get to the chat.
Hey, John,
Yes.
the presentation's not quite rolling there. I see like it's not in a slide format. It's just the browser.
Oh, okay. Well, it doesn't look like it will go to that. So you're not able to see this?
I can see you moving around, but it's like you're not actually doing the slides. It's just you're not presenting, in other words.
Well, I see the bar at the top, but I think it's because it's running an Edge. Let me try it in Google.
Okay.
All right, sorry everyone, just 1 second. We switch over. So while we do that, just talking about the chat for a second here. If you look down at the bottom of your product there, you'll see in the Zoom log, there's a little like a toolbar. Now it will go away if you don't mouse over it. So you've got to mouse over it. But once you mouse over it, you'll see there's a chat button there. And we like to encourage you to open that chat button. And once you've opened that chat button, okay, that looks better. I think I got what you want here, Elliot. Thank you for letting me know. Once you open that chat button, then what will happen is that you'll get a little window open on the side. And that little window is where you can talk to people. So let me just catch up. This look better, Elliot?
Yep, that'll work.
All right. So there's the chat button down here. It opens up this little window. And then there's a little drop down over here that it says either everyone, or you can choose a particular person. So if you want to talk directly to someone, maybe they're in your, you heard something they said and you want more details on it, we encourage you to reach directly out to them. If you think you heard something and you have an answer and you want to put some chat there, put it out, you can put it to everyone. Elliot will be monitoring the chat as we go along. So if you have questions or struggling with some technical stuff, he'll be there as well. So we encourage you right now, if you wouldn't mind, to open up your chat and go ahead and just post your name and who you are into the chat so we all know you're here. And that helps us to know what Crayons are online, and also helps us to know that you can use the chat because it's really important. So if you'll just take a minute and do that. There we go. And it's filling in. All right. Awesome. Hello, Roy. Thanks for joining. All right, so I can see we're still getting folks here. That's great. Another thing to point out is that we have put together a forum, and that forum is on the same page as the CU Digital Town Hall. And the purpose of the forum is so that you can continue discussions, and you can do it in this model here, as things go on. So we wanted to make sure that you had that opportunity as well. Even when these discussions are happening, here's a place you can go talk specifically about that. It's free, just sign up and you can start discussing if there's a topic here. We're also posting into these some of the information we're getting from these town halls. So I'm gonna share just a few things that I've discovered and then we'll get right to you guys. So the first one here is when I was working at a large credit union on the West Coast and the world blew up in 2008, we started looking at what we needed to do to get ahead of the problem. And we have a similar issue here where people do not have jobs or they're quickly losing their jobs and we don't know if they're going to get paid or not. And how do you get ahead of that trend? Because they may not call you first. They may choose to call some other lending institution or some other place. So with that in mind, what we looked at was not really remote deposit. Somehow I messed that up. It's direct deposit. I need to change that, Elliot, remind me. If they have direct deposit and it suddenly stops, that's a good indicator that they are, their job is either on hold or they've been furloughed. I would highly recommend starting up, getting these reports and reaching out to these people right away, because the quicker you can get a hold of them, the quicker you can help them, the quicker you can keep them from getting in a deeper hole or accepting a loan that maybe isn't financially healthy from some other institution. So that's one thing, is to look for the direct deposits stopping. And this is something I've talked about a lot in other speeches on, hey, this is maybe just common practice, but now more than ever. Another feature that we found very valuable during that time was a Skip-a-Pay program. For those of you that have one, you may want to consider waiving fees. If you have one and it's not automated, that's certainly something Big could help you with if you're interested. We are, we're facing the same difficulties as you are. A lot of the projects that we work on are, in concert with Amazon and Google, and they basically shut their doors for a bit on things like certifying skills. We're working through that, but we certainly have a lot of talent and skill on our team. And these are the kinds of things we absolutely could do quickly, which is automate a Skip-a-Pay program and get it out to all the members. Skipping a credit card and an auto might be the key to, that person, surviving a little longer, or maybe even making it through this. So, and you'll hear today, I think a lot of Craigians are probably already doing this, but certainly if you need help moving that together or with other things, we'd love to talk, including the direct deposit statistics, where we have a lot of skill in writing those types of reports and helping folks to work with that. So that's it for me. We're going to switch over to you guys, and the way this is going to work is I'm assuming some of these Craigians are here, so we'll skip over some of them that aren't here, but the folks that are here, gonna, you'll see your slide come up, and gonna give you 5 minutes to really just kind of talk about what's working, what isn't. If you have questions for the group, if you're seeking help, if you want to share, whatever it is, this is, we don't have the answers here. We're just trying to facilitate you guys sharing and collaborating. So, whoops, I did have a couple other things. So a lot of Craigians closing their branches, just heads up on that. So we're just collecting some of these. We will be sending out a survey from our data scientist, Tim Tibbles. We're collecting this information. We're starting to put together some sort of database so people can see what others are doing. Did they waive their Skip-a-Pay? Have they closed their lobbies? To be able to kind of see what's happening regionally. So if you'll help us, you'll get an email. It's a Gmail form, a G form from Google. Fill that out, and we're starting to build a database so we can share this information with everyone for free. So I have Addition first. I'm not sure if they're here. Elliot, are they here?
No, I put in your window. First up should be Mark from Heartland Credit Union Association.
All right, I was on mute, sorry. Well, like I'm sure everybody else, it's kind of a fluid situation right now. Our association, we are, just for those of you that don't know, our association is the Trade Association for Credit Unions in the states of Missouri and Kansas. We, as an association, the employees that can work from home are working from home. Our item processing department is not able to do that. We still have that going, but we're trying to do what we can to keep those employees safe. And so we've got some modifications that we're putting in for that. We're staying in touch with our credit unions by constantly sending out notifications on what we heard as far as what's going on, both at a state and federal level. We have decided internally to not include any kind of information that does not pertain to this current COVID-19 situation. We've asked them if they don't want to get these updates, they can, Exaspi not to receive them. We've canceled all of our events up until probably around June. We're seeing which ones we can do, via remote. But we had a lot of kind of training things and that we've had to cancel. We are telling our credit unions, to keep us in constant communication on what's going on so we can post that. I manage the share branches, among other things. So I'm making sure that I'm keeping our credit unions up to date on what co-op is sending out, and as far as branches being closed, and if they're allowing share branch members to use their drive-through facilities, and making sure that they post anything that they do out there so members can see it, and then co-op can keep their website as far as locations that are still open out there so members can know where they can go to continue to get service. I don't know what else to tell you except for that right now.
On your item processing, boy, that seems like a dangerous place, right? A lot of handling of money, a lot of handling of envelopes.
Well, the item processing is now that checks or cash letters are sent remotely, or via they're not actually handling any checks. That's what I mean. It's check processing is probably another way of doing it, and so there's no cash coming there. And they send electronic cash letters, which I mean, their checks that their tellers take.
Yeah.
We also handle, credit unions on us checks, if there's like returns and that kind of thing, and notify them. Fortunately, we were in a big enough building that we were practicing social distancing before it became a thing that's recommended. And so employees are at least 20 feet from each other in that building where we have our operations. We have an operations in Wichita, and then another one in St. Louis. And basically, except for them, that building or that area where we had our offices is pretty much empty.
Yeah, and one thing we've been hearing from some of the credit unions on the last call was if it's possible to have like a split staff where, you have an A and a B team kind of coming in and running this stuff. That way, if one person tests positive from the A team and you have to isolate the A team, you still got the B team. So that might be a thought.
That makes. We actually had an employee from that went on a cruise last week, and left, came back, I should say, on this past Saturday, left the Saturday before, and were not allowed to come back into the building. As soon as they got back on Saturday, we told them, they had to self-quarantine for at least 14 days, and that was before, so that was this past Saturday. And we were taking the precautions back then.
Well, it sounds like you're doing a great service for the organization by sending out those updates. I think that that's one of the things that we're really looking for is, what the opportunities are for getting information. That's what this is about. And we're finding that locally, we're not sure what's going on regulation-wise. We had that call last week, or in this last one, Tom O'Shea from Aspire, which is a New York-based credit union, certainly in the ground zero of this, particularly with a multi, what did he call it? Not functional, but folks have different jobs like taxi drivers and things like that. It certainly is impacting him. So it sounds like you guys bringing that out. And he actually mentioned make sure you stay in touch with your associations, with your leagues, because those are the guys that, as we look to legislation, particularly for the PTO, which is a big deal, that's where we're going to get that information. So
right, and we're in contact with our director of credit unions, for the state, and because a lot of credit unions are concerned that they would have like their board meetings. Do we have to have those every month? And and whether they had their annual meeting scheduled. Can they wait? Does it have to be done in a certain time frame compared to when it was done last year? So they're sending out, those kinds of things so credit unions can feel that, they're not in violation. But obviously there's a lot of flexibility going on now that if it can be pushed back, it's being pushed back.
Gotcha. Well, that's, we had in the last call, somebody mentioned that they were moving to Zoom for this format for their board meetings. So those are great points. Annual meeting, I hadn't even thought of that, and we all have to have them. Can we get a digital quorum, I guess? And so, yeah, there's so much that this impacts across the board. And so thank you for sharing. And
Sure.
let's go on. If you want to reach out
I also-
to Mark, you can grab him on the chat.
I also want to point out to everyone, I've been sending some private messages through the chat to you to figure out what institution you're with. So check on that so I can put you on the docket to speak next.
All right. So next one we got is a personal friend of mine, someone I've known a long time who has been around for a while in the credit union space, and I'm sure he's got some unique perspective. Their credit union's a large credit union in Portland, Oregon. So Gary, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, John. Good to see you and good to talk to you.
Yeah,
Hi,
thanks for
everyone.
joining.
So, yeah, you bet. So, yeah, it's a weird time. It's weird for us as well. I can share with you what we've shared with our members. Generally, all of our branches as of today, inside the branch is closed. There are employees there, however, that are on the phone. Also, we're keeping our drive-throughs open, and we extended the hours from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday at 4 of our branches for the drive-throughs. The other branches have been closed, but we've dispersed people from the contact center and people in the branch because we didn't want to have to lay anybody off, or everybody's currently still working, and it is fluid. It is changing every day, basically. Some other ideas that we're encouraging members to use ATMs, and they're surcharge free. We have a 12 branch network, so only 4 of them are currently open for the drive-through. And then we've beefed up our contact center staff so we can take more phone calls. Contact center is open 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 7:30 to 4 on Saturday. What else is in our message here?
So just
We're
real quick on the ATMs, I happened to be at a credit union a week ago, and members are struggling. There's a good question there from Doug as well. I'll ask that next. But members are having concerns is actually touching the ATMs. Are you providing some sort of wipes or something?
That's a good question. I've not heard that. I will. Are we going to get notes from this meeting? Because I've gotten requests to kind of share what other credit unions are doing back with my leadership.
Yeah, the entire recording will be shared.
Okay, cool. I haven't heard that about the ATMs.
It does kind of make
biggest
sense
concern
if
is-
it can live on a plastic surface that long, or if you're touching a screen
Right.
and it's a community device.
Or if we're at least wiping it down hourly or something.
Well, even hourly
reach
won't
out.
work. What they were trying to do was have somebody out there with wipes, but you can't do that with the standalone ATMs. So it's a struggle. I have a feeling that community devices like that are going to get called out eventually.
Yeah, it's true. I'll have to check. I'm not sure if we've even thought about that. I haven't heard anybody mention that so far.
Well, I know at
So
Vision's
for
Credit Union, they have members calling, and we came up with gloves. That was because we can't even get the wipes. So
Oh, yeah. That's
one-time
true.
use gloves, like the booties you wear when you go in a new house.
Oh, okay. That's a great idea, though. I'll check on that because I'm sure if it hasn't come up yet, it will be coming up.
Also,
So we're
Doug
also
from
on-
Cousins, who's one of our sponsors, wants to know, are you asking the members to only use the contact center or by appointment? Can people make appointments?
We've just extended the hours and are getting to people as quickly as we can. We're also implementing chat. We didn't currently have chat on our website, and we're rushing to get that launched as soon as possible. So that'll be another option to communicate with members. We're posting things on our website. The biggest concern we have at the branches is people, if they come up to the door, they're going to be looking in the door and they're going to see people milling around in the branches, less than 10 people, because they're going to be on the phone. And so we're trying to get the message out, and there's signage on the doors and stuff of the branch indoor traffic is temporarily closed, the drive-through is open, and you can use the ATM machine. Other special assistance that we're offering, we're putting together an emergency loan at 0% interest for up to 12 months with no payments for 90 days. The ability to do a skip-a-pay, which you had already talked about, with no fee. Free financial counseling through Greening Path. Debt consolidation and member modification options. No early withdrawal penalties or penalties on certificates of deposit. And no fees related to accessing cash, for example, wires and official checks.
Gotcha. No, I think that's whoever is, if that's not you, it's Donna. Hi, Donna. If you could mute, that would be great. Gary, sounds like you guys got a lot of good things. One thing that has been of concern, and what I'm trying to do is just bring up other things from other calls as we go along so you get the benefit of that. And you have a whole lot of people in the call center, and that call center, someone gets diagnosed, like they're going to want to take everybody out of there and quarantine them, just like we were talking about with Mark on Heartland. So a lot of credit unions are going to 2 shifts and then leaving like a cubicle open between 2 people, which would satisfy that concern. So just something to consider.
Right, and what we talked about was rotating shifts. So, dividing it up. And so there's less of that exposure. Fortunately, we've not had anybody exposed yet that we're aware of. I haven't heard what the plan is yet, if that were to happen, but I know that they're talking about it.
I know a lot of talk is about, make sure you clean between shifts. A lot of talk is about PTO and what to do with that. So excellent. Well, that was your 5 minutes. And Gary, thank you so much. And if you guys want to get more information on what Gary and Unitas has been doing, again, hit him up in the chat. And I can honestly say, because I know him personally, he is a very communicative person. If you reach out, you will definitely hear back from him. So he's very helpful and always has been. All right,
John,
so
for the kind words, and it was great to see you. Thanks.
Yeah. And we'll be doing more of these. So I hope you'll keep coming. So we appreciate that. All right, so we're going to go to Matthew from Sandia. And so I'm going to jump over here to Sandia. There we go, Sandia area. I'm assuming with Sandia Labs out in Albuquerque, not far from where I am in Colorado Springs right now. Hi, Matthew. And after this, we'll go to Paul from First Financial so you can be ready. So Matthew, if you haven't unmuted, you might want to unmute there. It's always like the moment somebody asks me to do something and I can't find the mute when I'm searching everywhere.
He was on moments ago. He might have been dropped.
Okay, so Paul, are you ready to go? All right, we'll check in with them in a second. How about Donna from Credit Union of Denver? Are we having some sort of problem with the Zoom?
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Oh, great, we can hear you, yes.
Sorry about that, and I'm also sorry that I joined late.
no.
Are we just sharing what we're doing at our specific credit unions?
Yeah, it's actually sharing what you're doing, but also if you're facing a challenge, if you have a question and someone else has an answer, whole point here is no one really has the answers, and so trying to
Right.
just get these things together and share.
Yeah. We are currently still open. We have limited branches. One of our branches is at the Tivoli Student Union building downtown, and the entire university has closed down there. So that branch office is actually closed, but our 2 remaining offices are open as usual. We've talked about possibly moving to the drive-up only in our main building, but we are still open in our lobby, and we're enforcing some self-distancing for the members. We're moving some of our chairs for waiting areas apart and down hallways and other
Hadn't thought
places
about
where
that.
there's no. Yeah, so we're kind of trying to make areas where members have to sit and wait more farther apart. And again, trying to encourage everybody that can do transactions to go through the drive-through, but we still want to keep our lobby open. So we're just taking extra precautions as far as cleaning, and they're throwing pens pretty much as soon as they're used. They're put away in a bag.
I would just give
and
it to
they're
the
gonna-
member. That's your new gift.
Or
Your
give it
credit.
to them, yep. Or we do have some signature pads that we are using, so you have to sign with the pen that's attached to that. So we're just
Stylus.
disinfecting, yeah, as much as we can. And as far as member help, we're doing some deferred payments with no fees, and we're also having a signature loan for 36 months. I think it's $2,500 or something to offer to members who are currently out of work or are having some financial issues that they can apply for. So those are the things that we're doing. Also, the allowing the certificates of deposit to be cashed in without penalty. I think that's about it for now. But yeah, it's definitely day-to-day. We meet almost every day to discuss what's working, what's not working. Do we need to do more? You know, what if we end up closing the lobby? What if, you know, those sorts of things. So kind of about where everybody else is, I would imagine.
What about PTO for staff? Someone gets sick. It seems like with some of the more mid-sized credit unions, there's definitely a systemic concern there for the staff.
Right. We have had up until this issue, we have everybody gets paid sick leave and paid vacation time. We have encouraged employees who are at any illness to stay home, and we are actually letting them go 40 hours negative on their sick leave. So that's something that was just instituted, and actually, you know, really encouraging people, do not come in if you are any sick at all, regardless of what it is. Just stay home. And so that's kind of where we're at with that.
Makes sense. Did you guys have a skip a pay program?
Oh yeah, we are doing a payment deferment for 2 months.
Okay.
Excluding mortgage loans that have escrow, we require the escrow payment. But other than that, I think we're excluding credit cards from that as well. But we are offering a deferment of 60 days with no fee. Our regular skip a pay, we charge a fee for that, but we're not charging fees for this.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good plan. Also, as I said, that direct deposit is the big canary in the coal mine. If you've got a way, you know, I don't know what system you're on, but if you've got a way you can monitor that, and if it was there 2 weeks ago and it suddenly stops,
Yeah.
that's definitely worth a call.
Yep.
Because that's really what's going to be the indicator that, you know, and a lot of times they won't call us first. You know, they're embarrassed, and what we also discovered is in these situations that the till, people will pay until they run out. They want to pay their bills, but whoever's in line first is more likely to get paid. So
Right.
I happen to be in Colorado Springs, so I'm nearby. It's really wild to even just go outside right now and walk around and see what's going on. It's just hard to even fathom. The only time you see this is during a blizzard or a bomb cyclone or whatever. So particularly, it seems like with an organization like yours that is related to the universities, where many of the universities have shut down. I know CU, School of Mines, CSU, they've all, and Greeley have all said, yeah, we're done. Obviously, that's interesting from the perspective of your particular, segment that you have. And so it'll be, I think, probably pretty valuable for them to continue to have these services, because you know how universities are. They'll start.
We also wanted to mention one other thing that I heard in a meeting today, and that is we have had a few members come in and want to make really large withdrawals of cash. So we are we're going to put in a limit of $5,000
What
unless
are they going to do with
give
it?
us like notice. I don't know.
I mean, you can't spend it anywhere.
Well, it's true. It's true. I don't know what the deal is with that. I mean, they do caution them and say this is dangerous to carry around. Like, do you have a safe place to put this? Like, but some people just, I don't know what they're thinking is going to happen, but they want over $10,000 in cash. Like, it's crazy.
It's probably to buy toilet paper would be my guess.
Well, or maybe
$5,000.
Well, you could also use it as toilet paper, so there's that.
Yes.
But I think one of the things that we were talking about in the previous meeting is there's opportunity here right now. One of the opportunities is that to really look at your debit card usage. We should be encouraging the members right now, because they're going to put a lot of things on the plan, in the sense of they're going to start having to pay for all these things for pickup, and they may never have signed up for Grubhub before. They may never have signed up for Uber Eats. They may never have signed up for a lot of these services. And right now is the time to get your cards into those systems, those card on file systems. One of the things we talked about in the previous meeting was if the administration gets through this $1,000, that would be nice to have in your credit union. What could you do to get them to put it there? And how could you help them? Maybe double points on like I said, debit for and credit for things in certain spaces, to encourage people to use the local restaurants, to encourage people to still use the drive-throughs. Because literally, just I think it was yesterday. Was it yesterday morning at 8 a.m.? Yeah, yesterday morning at 8 a.m. We closed all theaters, dining rooms, bowling alleys, anywhere like that, and all of those people were sent home. They still have their dining areas open, but they don't need the full staff to support that. They can run the dining area with half the staff. And so a lot of people don't have jobs right away. And the more we can patronize them using safe ways. And I think the credit unions could help incentivize that with rewards and things like that. So maybe that'll help offset the need for cash if they understand they can use their credit and debit instruments. Also, contactless payment. We talked about that in the last one. If you have Apple Pay, if you have Google Pay, now's the time to push it.
Good point.
But yeah, though, thank you for sharing. I was trying to figure out who Tony was. I don't know if he's with a credit union or not. So Tony, if you want to speak up, if you are with a credit union, let us know which one. If not, I think we've covered all the credit unions here. Like I said, it's hard for people to come. We're going to continue to have these. But Doug has brought up a couple things that I think are very valuable in the group chat. So I'm going to give him a chance to talk. So maybe Tony, if you can hear me, maybe you could jump on the chat and let me know who you are.
Yep.
Roy's here, but Roy is from CU Times. But go ahead, Doug. Or what was that, Tony?
Yes. It's
Oh,
Tony.
hi, Tony.
Hi. I'm from Hudson Valley.
Oh, great. Okay, Tony, would you mind sharing?
Not at all. So,
Okay.
we're approximately 75 miles north of New York City. So we are taking orders from the governor at this point. There's a lot of things happening. We just recently made the decision to close our lobbies. And so we're doing drive-up service. We are extending hours for our drive-ups. We do have by appointment only a few branches open to do things like notary services, loan closings, and a couple of other things like instant issue debit cards. And and our contact center, we also extended our hours there. We're doing a lot internally to separate people, a lot of telecommuters. You know,
How many employees do you have, Tony?
we have about 800.
Yeah, I was guessing you're a large credit union, so.
Yep. Yeah, and you know, we're going to be working 3 shifts in our branches to do the drive-up traffic. We are going to have people because of we have a couple branches that don't have drive-ups, so we'll be reassigning those people. And we're doing a lot of things just in terms of making sure that we have staff that you know, we're trying to cross-train people kind of on the fly. If they are in a branch that's not going to be open, we're relocating them. But we're also trying to be careful about taking people from one branch and putting them in another branch and making sure that we don't cross-contaminate areas. We're even doing that on our headquarters location, making sure people stay on the floor that they have an office in and not traveling to other floors. And then again, we're putting a lot of emphasis right now on telecommuters using remote workforce, and we're also even though we had telecommuters before, we're in the process of rolling out additional telecommuter especially for the contact center.
You know, that's one of the things that really fascinates me is all of a sudden, like I've got a lot of friends who are, you know, in that strict IT part of the business, and they're downstairs. I hear from them, and they're cloning computers in laptops as fast as they can.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I wonder how long before we start to deplete the supply of laptops and stuff. I wonder if we should be buying ahead, even if we think this will get worse. Or did you have those lying around, you know?
Well, we did place an order back in January, I think it was, when we saw some of this unfolding.
Oh, good for you.
We're also using a service that allows our employees to remote in from their own PC at home. So if they have a personal PC, this service allows them to remote into their desktop here and function essentially as if they were sitting at their desk.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, that's, you know, one of the things you mentioned earlier with not so much a cross-contamination, but cross-training. There was a message of the last one by Nate from Cousins about there's a product called Camtasia, which is just basically a screen recording software.
Yep.
And TechSmith is making it free right now. And they were mentioning that several credit unions are taking and asking some staff to record videos, particularly staff that have specific things that need to be done, key staff, that there's a worry that if that person were to get sick, that you know, there might not be enough instructions for someone else to do it. And so recording that video is a very quick way to put that together. I'll put the link in the Everyone group, but yeah, we see that, you know, as an opportunity as well for folks to start collecting that. The other thing that was mentioned, and it seems like it's something worth considering, is if you do have key staff members, maybe you want to isolate them. You know, like if you've got a key person in the call center, maybe don't sit them with the rest of them. Maybe isolate them just to make sure that there's less. And you know, from our perspective, you know, what we heard from New York this morning was troubling. It's the epicenter of this whole thing. Have you seen any of these large withdrawals that Credit Union of Denver was mentioning? Because I've heard that as well from another credit union in LA.
We haven't seen a lot of that, but we raised our ATM limits a little bit to accommodate that. We raised our POS limits to just help in that regard. But you know, we're certainly not trying to encourage a lot of big withdrawals. And of course, since we've closed our lobbies, all that would have to be done in Drive-Up Now anyway. The other thing we did is, you mentioned, relocating and separating staff. We also do that at senior staff level. I'm actually working out of our business recovery location. I'm the only one here. Our CFO is working out of his house. Our CEO is in the office. But so we've been trying to separate key people just so we have the continuity.
Yeah, I'm sorry you drew the short straw and you didn't get to go to your house.
I know. I know.
how
I had
did-
20 minutes to my commute.
Yeah, no doubt. Plus, you're there. You're like, what's his name in The Martian? You're alone.
Exactly.
Start growing potatoes. But what about the skip-a-pay and possibly any kind of analytics tracking? To try to get ahead of this, to try to figure out when people are losing their jobs.
Yeah, so we've done a couple things. We've done a lot of member communication, especially since this last change with the branch lobbies. And we're getting a lot of very positive feedback, but also a lot of people saying, I've lost my job. No income whatsoever now, and I need to do deferment. So we're handling those on a case-by-case basis. And our collections department, of course, is working overtime to make sure that we can handle deferments and do that in a reasonable manner, and making sure we can make any accommodation that we need to make.
Now that may be something to step up, is to add more collections people. Maybe if you're retraining people, like Gary was saying from Unitas, or moving them around, that might be a place to put them, because I can see where, if nothing else, collections is an outbound calling system, which is valuable, particularly in that direct deposit moment. If you could start feeding that into their queue, hey, we're not calling you because you're delinquent. We're calling you because we think your direct deposit's broken, and maybe you want to fix that. And they're going to say, well, I don't have a job. And then that's your opportunity, I think, to counsel them and get them in that deferment, because there's a lot of people who will be ashamed and they won't call. That's what we learned in 2008 in the Sand States from that time frame.
That's a good point.
Tony, thank you so much for taking the time. By the way, Tony, sounds like you're the CTO, CIO?
I'm the executive vice president. I have IT as part of my responsibility.
Well, thank you, Tony.
Yep.
And it sounds like Tony and his group are doing a lot of things. And so, again, I would encourage you to reach out on the group. Sounds like, and obviously, Tony, if you heard something here and want to talk to them, that would be great. Doug has been posting a lot of really good comments in the Everyone group here. I'd like to turn it over to Doug for a second. Looks like there's a couple things that are valuable. So, Doug, you want to jump in?
Sure, John, thanks. One of the things that we've been monitoring is, starting off with fraud, scams, malware, stuff like that. And we're reading that members are anxiously looking, what's the latest news, clicking on the map to find out what's spreading. But when they click on the map, it actually releases malware. To keep your members, I guess, as protected as possible, maybe on your front page, your website, you tell them, hey, these things are happening. We're not going to be reaching out to you asking for your account number, your social security number. So it looks like, there's definitely a ramp up of scammers out there.
Well, and there's a lot more people using the digital services that don't normally use the digital services. It might be easier to fool.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing that we'd recommend, as a lot of the things that is being brought up by the credit unions or talked about by John, is we're absolutely looking out, how can we help members, but there's also a competitive piece of it. How can we help members, before somebody else does? So are you looking at your, competitor banks in your area? What are they saying they're doing? So as an example, one of the largest banks here in Colorado is offering their bank customers 0% credit card rates if you request it. So they're not going across the board, but if you ask for it, they'll give you a 0% interest for a month. A lot of the big banks are pushing Zelle. It's like, hey, John, I owe you $50. I'm just gonna kind to send the money to you, you know, the bank version of the Venmo. But again, it's getting people to continue with their lives without, you know, the plastic or doing other type things. So, you know, probably just look out there, you know, what's going on in your competition, and you probably have some ideas as to either how you're ahead, or if you see somebody has a great idea, well, you know, you don't have to invent every brand new idea.
That's right. Flattery, you know, you can follow it up and do it yourself. I could agree more.
Hey, John, you mentioned about this is Tim. You mentioned about, or some folks were mentioning about high cash withdrawals. That might be an opportunity to start talking about some of these other apps and getting your card in those apps at the top, you know, top of wallet type of thing, so that I mean, people may not realize that, you know, somebody walks up to their, you know, the landscaper walks up and, you know, doesn't want to touch the cash or whatever, that they could actually just say, hey, you know, I'll P2P this, you know, this payment to you, or also encourage people to use bill pay, you know, those type of services, so that they can reduce the amount of essentially touch that's going on with the, you know, with cash.
Yeah, and it might be worthwhile to do, again, this is a tremendous opportunity for data analytics. You look back to 2008 when this kind of occurred the first time, and again, it was much more of a self-inflicted wound. This obviously is not, so there are some differences, but there are a lot of things that are similar. There are people without jobs, there's the market crashing, and so you look back at that, and some of these tools didn't exist. They weren't so full blown. There wasn't Venmo. PayPal was around, but it wasn't near as pervasive. I think programs to get people to put, you know, your credit cards and debit cards in your Amazon, in your PayPal, or in their PayPal are huge right now, because there are people who are doing it for the first time. They're having to do it because they're being forced, you know, out of their comfort zone of going to Walmart and paying in cash, or, you know, paying directly with a debit card and touching a POS system.
John, right now they just said Amazon's trying to hire 100,000 new employees to keep up with the demand.
Well, good. Then I may have a new job finally. I'm totally okay with that. I can help. We just had Jacqueline Gonzalez join from U.S. Eagle Credit Union. And Jacqueline, welcome. I know you were a little bit late, so I thought I might give you just a little bit about how this works. What we're doing is just trying to encourage and facilitate discussion between credit unions. And if you wouldn't mind, we'd like you to unmute and share a little bit about what you guys are experiencing, what you're doing, good, bad, and different. And if you have questions, or somebody can, you know, you want to know something, there's a lot of incredible, very successful credit unions on this call who we're hoping that they may be able to have some solutions, or at least the collaboration could help.
Yeah, sure, great. Thanks. So right now our credit union, so in New Mexico right now, we only have about 28 cases. So what we've started doing over the last few days is creating a pop-up call center. So we are separating our call center employees, and we have some call center employees, which is my department, at our standard call center location, and we've actually created another location for the other half of our call center agents to be at, so that we can do some social distancing.
Wait, just a question. I got to know what a pop-up call center is, because what I'm thinking is like a bunch of tents in a Walmart parking lot. So
Right. Basically, what we did is we took some tables and threw some computers on them. So,
there you go. Okay.
Yeah, so we've got that in the works. That's kind of starting today. We are thinking about moving to drive-through only traffic. So we're working to move our branch personnel into other areas of support, especially in the call centers, and that's going to drive up our volume. So we're just kind of taking it day by day right now.
Have you experienced any, I know you're with the call center, has your team experienced any PTO or anything like that as of yet, and do you have plans for that?
So we've had a couple of agents have to be quarantined due to exposure, not due to positive testing. So we've had that experience right now. We do have some individuals that have planned PTO that are kind of thinking about canceling it, of course, because they're going to be traveling out of state. But luckily what had happened is actually we just went through a checking account conversion. And so I had a lot of April blocked out because we were going to have some high call volume. And so I didn't have any PTO requests coming through. So a lot of my patients really didn't plan to be leaving because we were going to have them here.
So on the pop-up call centers, are you also looking at solutions for moving people to their homes to answer calls?
We have. So we do have certain departments that are already working remotely. Those are our support departments. Like we have some individuals in our fraud department, some in our quality departments and compliance that have moved over. My call center is probably about 15 agents, so we're a little smaller. And so right now I only have access to having my leads as remote agents, which would be two individuals.
Gotcha.
And since right now we're kind of safe, we haven't had any cases come through the organization, we aren't pushing my agents to go remotely just yet.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing. As I said, Albuquerque's just down the way. I'm in Colorado Springs, so
yeah.
We're kind of seeing that along this this western, or pardon me, the eastern route, that way. A lot of things down that corridor. So I'm beginning to think it's inevitable that everybody's going to close their lobbies. That's something I'm feeling like is inevitable, and I know Credit Union of Denver, that seems like a struggle, but it feels like we're not going to, I think, be mandated because we're part of the critical infrastructure. I don't think they could mandate it, but it feels like that's a trend. I know Ent announced that, Ent Credit Union here where I am, a large credit union in Colorado Springs. It just seems like that's a trend. Hudson, you mentioned you did it. Well, good. We have a little bit more time, and what I want to do is, facilitate just some more questions and answers and those sorts of things that amongst the group here. I have a few questions that I'm interested in hearing maybe some of your answers to. One of which is, what happens if a sick member shows up? I did find out about a credit union that opened a hotline for that, like they have a place for people to call. But a big, a sweaty, coughing up stuff guy roams into, either, if the lobby's closed, you don't have to worry about that. But even if they're out in the drive-through, you don't want to be handling that pneumatic tube that gets sent back. I mean, especially in New York, that seems like where the epicenter is right now. Is that something you guys have thought of, Tony? He's probably searching for the mute because
Yes, I was.
called it out. Sorry.
That's all right. So before we made the decision to close our lobbies, we did post signs and basically saying that if you have a fever or if you're expressing these kind of symptoms, please do not enter the lobby. But you're right, there's nothing we can do in the drive up now. We just have to hope that people will abide by the the guidelines essentially that have been tossed around.
I mean, you could hand out gloves to the guys that are pulling out those pneumatic tubes. I mean,
yeah, we're finding that supplies are hard to get. That's one of the other challenges.
yeah, especially in your neck of the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we are, I think another person had mentioned cleaning the ATMs. We're trying to do that on a regular basis, but you're right. I mean, as soon as somebody else uses it, then the next person's probably not going to want to use it.
Yeah, it's amazing how this is all. The other thing I would consider too is if you have group devices in your organization, like the FedLine machine or
yes,
yeah, like one of the things I said is just bring your own keyboard. You could plug it in. Those things aren't special. They're just the mouse and the keyboard. Bring your own.
Yeah. We have Lysol wipes around the buildings that people can use at their
convenience. You should sell those. You could easily fund all of your members taking 6 months off.
Yeah.
Jacqueline mentions they are using gloves, so that's good. And the branches are doing it after almost every transaction. So Yeah, wiping down the counter. I think somebody should be assigned to do that. If you are letting people in the lobby, that seems like that would make sense. Pens should be thrown away. I mean, but I just wondered about, what to do with a very sick member, because God, you got to stay 6 feet away from them or whatever. And then how are you going to get them to go? And is it even right to get them to go? And so there's a great comment on that in the forum. One of the Crayons built a hotline for that, but I was thinking, I don't want them touching my phone. I don't know. There's so much to unravel in this. It's hard to even keep up with it. Another thing that I wanted to find out is anybody have someone who's monitoring sort of what's going on with the administration and the regulatory front? If there is relief, in the form of, some sort of paying for folks who get sick or whatever they do. I guess we're not planning on it, but is everybody sort of monitoring that, or is it just sort of like, for example, Tony, with you being in New York, we were talking in the last meeting about the Crayon League being very close to one of who was it? Kirk, which senator was it, or congressman or whatever?
Sorry about that, John. I was on mute.
Yeah,
That was New Jersey, Senator Mendez, I think.
Yeah. And so what does that look like? So just has anybody heard anything on that? Are they hearing something from their leagues or associations? Is that how you expect to hear it, or will it be direct, or?
Yeah, this is Tony again. I'm also on the association board. So I'm getting that information real time. And unfortunately, they had to close their offices today because they had somebody that was ill. So they're all working remotely. But nevertheless, they are getting the information very quickly from the governor's office. And as probably everybody knows, Governor Cuomo is making almost daily press conferences to kind of talk about the latest updating on social distancing, minimum office workers or maximum office workers in non-essential services. And there's some rumor about sheltering in place in New York City, which is going to be create a lot of havoc for sure. And then we're also making sure that we're keeping abreast of federal regulation too. Interestingly enough, one of the things that we got from our members when we started limiting services was a lot of comments about Reg D, and is that going to be loosened so that they can do more transfers? So
that's a good one. I mean, what you gonna get, a slap on the hand, right? I mean,
right.
I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know, Kirk, would you waive Reg D?
I do not believe that the NCUA has ever once reviewed Reg D transfers in my history of being on that side of the house. So we would, right? We would have waived it in order to give people the options to not have to come in or not have to call in.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Tony. And I think I would tell everybody, one of the things that always kind of blew my mind when we were doing home banking installs, and we did 300 of them, was when I started running into Crayons and went, yeah, we just don't do that. And I thought, well, how can you not do that? Seems like it's law. And they went, yeah, we just don't. And, I wasn't set up for somebody that didn't. I expected it to be a rule. So I guess it can be done. And I would defer to Kirk, who's, former CEO of Bethpage, Arch Credit Union in Tony's neck of the woods. And so if he thinks that's okay, then maybe it is. I don't know.
John,
we have a couple.
Others talking about, watching what's happening nationally and all that, but I think there's also a blend over to, the state level and the SBA loans. So any of the credit unions that do SBA loans or have partners that do SBA loans, if the governor declares, some sort of an emergency, then they can start doing economic injury disaster loans. probably for the businesses. So, probably the New Yorks and Washington, San Francisco areas, maybe some of those states, but as it, hopefully it doesn't move rapidly, but as it may move into other states and they declare disasters, it might open up other avenues for SBA loans for credit unions.
It's a great point. And if you have business interruption service insurance, you may want to look into that as well. Gary, you were going to say something?
Hey, yeah. So in reference to a sick member coming in the branch, we didn't have a sick member come in, but we had a member come in last week before we closed our lobbies that told us that his wife was being quarantined. And the branch didn't really know at that time, how to deal with that. And so they helped him initially, and then he left, and he came back later in the afternoon, and they actually saw him coming, and they stopped him from coming in the branch and told him that he would have to call and we'd have to help him over the phone.
My goodness. I would have thought they would have attacked him and sprayed him down with Lysol. That's what I do with the people next to me in the plane.
We're for member service. We didn't want to do that. We really wanted that, and it hadn't come out yet that we were going to close the lobbies. It was last week, and things were changing every day, as they still are. But the branch kind of freaked out a little bit and didn't know, they couldn't believe that he told them that his wife is at home quarantined.
Yeah. Well, I think that, and it's nice that he told you. How many people are showing up that aren't telling you?
Correct. Right.
And, I don't know. My feeling is this, and I'd love to get your comments on this. Statistically, I don't see any way that pretty much every credit union in the United States is not going to have at least one case at some point. And it's not going to be a 2 degrees or 3 degrees. It's going to be that person has it and it has been shown to have it. And then that's going to, whatever department that's in. I mean, do you guys, I don't see how that wouldn't be. Am I wrong there?
I added a comment in the comment section that I got clarity on why we distributed the contact center employees and some of the branch employees to the branches. And it was specifically if someone in one of the branches becomes ill and we have to quarantine all the people in that branch, it's spread out, and so it lessens our risk.
Yeah, it sounds similar. Yeah, that sounds similar to what Jacqueline was doing as well, and what I think that's a really good point. Yeah, so I just personally believe that everybody's going to have someone at some point. I mean, Tony, you got to know that because you're the epicenter, right? You have to be expecting it.
Yeah, we've taken those quarantine precautions very seriously. Like I said before, even our headquarters building, we're not allowing people to go from floor to floor. If your office is on the first floor, you stay on the first floor.
But the bathrooms are way better on the second floor.
Yes, that's true.
That's where my bathroom is. I could see employees saying that. I had a lot of employees in my time. So we have somebody here from the Illinois Credit Union League. I thought it might be useful to hear from the league a little bit on what's going on there. And I know Illinois got its own things.
Yeah, thank you. This is Patrick from the Illinois Credit Union League, the EVP and COO. And I mean, we're doing a lot of the same things that the Heartland Credit Union Association is doing, and from a office standpoint, our service corps is a little bit larger. So we have a total of about 125 employees. And our Naperville office was just west of Chicago, and we've gone through. We're just doing all employees are working from home, but we have a skeleton crew of about a dozen people in our call center that were socially spacing the way they need to be. So we're taking all those types of precautions. But we also have taken the approach that we're not going to inundate our member credit union, which is about 200 in Illinois, with communications other than this virus. However, or the COVID situation. But we have been in close contact with our regulator. So what we do is we do update our credit unions on a pretty regular basis on what's going on with our Department of Financial Institutions, and what we know even on a little bit on the federal level. Our state is about 80% state chartered credit unions, so not as many federal credit unions. For instance, our credit unions, we're having our DFI waive. Our credit unions need to have their annual meeting by April 1st, or what their most bylaws say, I think May 1st or something like that. So credit unions can just email our DFI, say, hey, we're unable to have an annual membership meeting. So they're allowing them to schedule it a little bit later in the year. In our state, our examinations are continuing on as normal. However, we've gone completely to the electronic examinations. You know, no one's coming into particular credit union shops or doing any of that. From a credit union engagement, again, it's a little bit different for leagues. Obviously, we're more B2B instead of B2M, B2member. But what's been helpful for our credit unions, what's worked well for us is we've always had what we call our peer networking groups, which is about a dozen different groups where maybe the operations professionals will all get together once every couple of months, or the marketing professionals of our credit unions will get together. And in this peer networking groups, it's a good way to collaborate. Well, we've recently set up a peer networking one, or I should say expanded our human resources in compliance network and extended it to really all credit unions. And we've had so many people have signed on to that in the last week. And we now have every other day, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m., we'll actually have an HR peer group with any credit unions can call in and just talk about HR issues. And a lot of the talk is about how to handle things from their employee level and things of that nature. The last thing I'll say is we've also set up, in much like you're doing here in this group, is we were setting up conference calls with the different asset size credit unions. So this afternoon, actually at 11 minutes ago it started, which is why my CEO can't be on here today, but we're doing a large credit union group call where we have about 20 credit unions above 500 million in assets that are all getting together on that call to talk about issues. We have a small credit union group for all credit unions under 60 million in assets, and that's actually every 2-3 days. And then we're also doing a mid-size group for the 60 million to 500 million. So what we're trying to do is get groups like this to get together at the state level, but try to have some semblance of a little bit different asset size, knowing that our $10 billion credit union is going to have different issues than our $45 million credit union. So what we've seen is we have a ton of engagement from credit unions. We sent out a survey about what credit unions are doing in this situation, and we have just a tremendous response. So we'll be posting that to our website. Just our role to try to make as many of the best practices available to all of our credit unions, but also is our role as liaison to the regulators. What information can we pass along?
What have you heard from? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say that's really all that we're doing. A little bit different than other things that we've been discussing today.
No, it's good to know. What are you hearing from the regulators? What are the kinds of things that you're passing along there that are coming down that are because I would assume whatever happens there is going to happen elsewhere.
Yeah, our message from our department is that they are business as usual. The change they're making is going to fully electronic examinations. Most everyone on this call knows they've been migrating to that anyway, but they're going full force. So it's business as usual. The also message is that, at least at our state, they are being lenient on again, like the annual meeting and some of these, instead of having to go through a full-blown form process, it's just, hey, shoot an email saying we're moving our annual meeting. Other things in terms of like board meetings on that side, we've had a lot of conversations, and it's same thing, the existing board you have in place today, if you're not able to have your membership meeting, and if that's the board that's going to stay in place, and all the same, types of, they're looking at, what's the need for having in-person meetings federal credit unions, boards only have to meet in person one time a year. It's a little different for states. So our message, what I'd say is our regulators are understanding what's going on, and they're kind of looking at the different operational things that credit unions are going through beyond serving their members.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing. Certainly good to hear that our associations and our leagues are really pulling together to do this same thing. This was our thought, was how can we get people together to share and facilitate that? So excellent to hear that you guys are doing that too. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Next time we'll try to make it so your CEO can join. Go ahead.
This is Mark again at Heartland, and I just want to echo what Patrick said. We did the same thing with our credit unions and had group calls. We did ours by geographical areas, the St. Louis area, the mid-Missouri, Kansas City, Springfield, Wichita, Topeka, that kind of thing. And we found them to be very beneficial, where they could talk to each other and find out what they're doing and kind of the best practices that they're doing to get through this crisis.
So Jacqueline has a question for everyone. Has anyone started offering a relief loan? If so, are you offering it to everyone or just those who are experiencing loss of income due to unemployment? So if someone wants to, I thought Gary said that, but I can't remember.
Yeah, we are offering that. Hang on, I'll pull up the details. There was some more details on it. We're calling it.
And Jacqueline, you can definitely reach out to Gary directly too on the thing here. I mean, well, he'll go over it, but you can get more information that way too.
Yeah, just real quick, we're calling it an emergency loan that's available at 0% interest for 12 months with no payment for 90 days. I believe it's tier 1, 2, and 3. And I don't know that there's a qualifier that they have to prove that they're out of work.
Awesome, thank you.
Is there a maximum loan amount?
In this email, I don't see that. I believe it's $5,000. I'll do some more research and see if I can find the amount.
Good to know.
Okay.
Who was that asked that? Mark?
Oh, that was Mark. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And I think, it's something that we could share with our credit unions that they can consider.
Another good question here for larger credit unions, and we've got, like I said, we got some big ones online here. Tony, I think of you. Have you been approached by smaller credit unions that do not have drive up to somehow serve their members? I would think that would be part and parcel to shared branching to some extent. But I'm not sure how otherwise it would work.
The only way that would work is you'd have to work if they were on the same core and they could work something out. But yeah, shared branching is a good way to do that if they're all together.
Yeah. But I did think about that. There are, drive ups and drive throughs. I was astonished when I started working with the credit union in California. We just didn't have them. They just don't exist because there's not that kind of real estate around. And so it just wasn't a thing. And so there are plenty of people that it'll be interesting to see what happens in those areas, because if they close the lobby, there's nothing left. So at least the drive ups turned out to be a good alternative. So it's funny, Elizabeth Robbins says curb service. I've often talked about curb service. I have, it could be, you could put some signs up and say, well, come out. I just don't bring any linen bags of money, I guess. But seems like that could easily be done, is a curb service if it's just to sign paperwork or other things. I mean, well, listen, as we get towards the end here, we've got a couple other people here. We've got Shared Cooperative Services. I'm not sure. I kind of remember it, but I'm not sure if that's an association or a league. But if you have something to add, we'd love to hear from you. And then I was going to give Roy from the Credit Union Times if he wanted to ask any questions. But we've got Shared Cooperative Services and Credit Union Resources. So if either of you have anything. I'm going to assume not, based on there. Roy, did you have any questions about this?
No, I'm good. You guys have covered quite a bit. I just wanted to listen in and hear what the concerns were.
Doug just mentioned that they talked to their Dell service provider about getting laptops, and they said it's significantly delayed as large groups are buying 1,000 units at a time. That's, you know, anytime that we hear everybody doing something, we have to assume that we're going to overwhelm the sourcing for that. And so if you haven't ordered your laptops, that's a good one. Get them ordered. I also am okay with the services that I think Tony mentioned, where for certain people where they can use their current home PC, because the technology to wall that off now is there. And so that's a pretty strong possibility as well that we may need to look into, as opposed to giving everybody a laptop. Well, listen, you know, the whole point of this was to bring everybody together. We still got a little bit of time left before we go. Are there any other questions or any other things that you want to, there's been a lot of good things out here that people have asked. I like the question about the relief loans. Those are the kinds of things I expected. Anything else that anybody's got for the good of the order here? All right, well, listen, thank you. We will be doing more of these. We hope you'll keep coming, because we think this is going to continue to change. We've had an overwhelming response. It's one of the reasons why the scheduling went a little bit kaput, because Zoom only allows 100 people, and we didn't think 100 people would ever get a chance to talk, or we'd be able to have a good conversation that way. So we started splitting them up, but it caused a little bit of a scheduling issue. We're hoping that cleans up by Friday. We've got 2 more of these scheduled. It continues to have a lot of folks coming. And I'll say this, we're in the same boat as everybody else here at Best Innovation Group, but we have a lot of really good people with years and years and years and years and years of experience in credit unions. So if you run into something where you need some resources, it's across the board. We've done everything from running the Fed line to running, doing Skip-a-Pay, all of those sorts of things, particularly in digital. So we're certainly retooling a little bit, because we know a lot of the things that we normally do in the innovation space are going to dry up or just not be as important right now. And we certainly understand that. That's why we're trying to pivot and help you guys. But if we can be of help, we certainly would love to hear from you. We have a lot of skills. So that's as much of a sales pitch as I'll give. Thank you, everyone, for your time. We'll be sending a survey out. We hope that you'll take the time to fill it out. We're planning on putting up a data on the website to show what credit unions across the country have closed their lobbies, what are offering relief loans, all of these things. It's going to come from, Tim, where's it going to come from? Dibbles? Did he bail? It's going to come from bigcusurvey@gmail.com. And so that's, we just threw it together because we're trying to move fast on this. So it's not our normal pretty email. If you wouldn't mind filling that out, it will turn into good information for everyone. Thank you all for attending. We will put this out there. Also, the other one that was this morning has a lot of good information. Highly recommend you go watch that as well. And there'll be 2 more on Friday, and it looks like we'll have more next week. And people are welcome to join more than once. I don't think we can communicate enough and collaborate enough during these times. And so we want to create as many opportunities as we can for you guys to do that. Thank you.